Why does it seem like the shorter the girl, the more she has a preference for guys to be tall? This is something that quite a few people have noticed, that a lot of these like short girls, like short stat girls that are in like the low 5 foot range or even under, tend to have a strong preference for guys that are built like the Jolly Green Giant. So why is this? What is going on here? I encountered this myself. I dated a girl that was about 5 foot, and she told me one of her exes was 6'9". Like, who is this guy? Kevin Durant? She also said that height didn't really matter to us. So yeah, that's quite a coincidence, right? But I do think shorter girls have a stronger preference for taller guys. And it's not very intuitive, because as a man, you would assume, oh, the shorter girl would be more forgiving of a guy to be short himself. No, not really. In fact, it seems like girls that are average height seem to be more forgiving of guys to be on the shorter side, right? Or to be on the left of the height bell curve. I think this can be explained by evolutionary biology. If you think about like the desire to want to reproduce, there's obviously like, you know, what is like sexually attractive to you like in the moment. And a lot of girls do prefer guys to be on the taller side anyway. But there's also a second layer that comes to sexual attraction and sexual selection. And that is thinking about traits for your children to reproduce themselves. Like, your genes don't really give a shit about anything else other than reproducing ad infinitum. So it's kind of well known that shorter guys have a harder time to date and reproduce with women. Now, this doesn't really apply for women, right? Like, if you're like a 5'2" girl that's hot, there's no shortage of guys that want to sleep with you. Like, that's not a problem. Like, as men, we don't really give a shit if a girl is tall or short, unless there's some exceptional circumstance. But for men, it is a real big deal. Like, you can see this on dating app statistics, and just like how things play out with your own eyes. You don't need to take my word for it or whatever. You could just see with your own eyes this to be the case, right? From the perspective of the short girl, if she has a short son, she knows her short son is going to have a harder time dating and reproducing, right? The daughter's going to be fine regardless, but the son might struggle to reproduce himself. And if you're a short girl and you have a child with a guy with an average height, by the law of averages, your son is going to be on average shorter and is going to have a harder time to reproduce himself. So if the short girl shoots up and has a child with a guy that is exceptionally tall, like a 6'3", 6'4" guy, her son's probably going to be taller on average and is going to have a higher chance of reproducing her genes down the line. I know this isn't like consciously thought about, but if you think about it from the perspective of your genes wanting to just reproduce as much as possible, it makes total sense for short girls to have a stronger preference for taller guys, in a way that a average height girl or a tall girl isn't necessarily going to have. And even in Asia, like, I've noticed that a lot of girls in their Tinder bios will say something like, swipe right if you're above 180 centimeters, which is like 5'11". But 5'11" in Asian countries is way higher a demand relative to the population of average men than it is for a Western woman to write the same thing about a guy being 6 foot or above. It's even more rare for a guy in Asia to be 180 centimeters plus than it is for a guy in the West to be 6 foot plus. So even in countries where the average height is shorter than Western countries, the relative height preference is even more. And any Asian guy can back me up and say that, you know, on Tinder and like the dating apps in Asia, that's the equivalent they have there, 180 centimeters plus. So when you think about it from like evolutionary biology, it really does make sense as to why short women are like this. It's not really consciously thought of, it's just kind of like instincts, like genetic memory, as to why short women like have this preference. I can't change your height, but I can tell you how to improve your face, and I've made a few videos on my Patreon about how to improve your looks, so you can go check it out in the link in the description below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.